John is such one of those real guys that we just called last minute, like, hey, we have some open time, and I'm sure John is just sitting around and twiddling his thumbs. Does he have time? And John said, matter of fact, I was sitting around. No, I'm just joking, but John came on last minute. Thank you, John. I appreciate you for being on that moment.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy. Anything for you. We've always been supportive of each other over the years.
We have, and listen, you're 8 seasons in, right? 8 seasons in on Bar Rescue?
I am. I'm about to start shooting the 9th in August.
All right, 9th in August, advocate for small businesses, entrepreneurs. I like the way that you're an advocate for it, though, because I think that, now I got a children's book out, John, and my thing with now is what I realized is there are children that act like children. There are adults that act like adults, and there are adults that act like children. And after I decided that these beautiful little kids who you never know what challenge they're going through, and they're not tainted by the world, and they're sponges. I need to start giving some of these adults that act like children a little more Jon Taffer, Kevin O'Leary, Gary V, kind of like, I'm rooting for you,
Yeah.
but grow up.
Yeah.
And come to the reality of what you're doing.
It's funny. I was sitting with my daughter years ago, and I had a box of cereal on the table. And I was teaching her about money. So I took 100, they were Cheerios. I took 100 Cheerios. I said, okay, I got to give the government 30 of these. So I pushed those aside. I got to pay the rent. I pushed those aside. I got to pay, you want a new baseball glove? I got to get you that. And we had no Cheerios left. And at 8 years old, she started to understand it. And I called it the Cheerio model. But it really taught her the premise of it. I've always wanted to write a children's book about a lemonade stand. How to run a lemonade stand profitably. And I always thought something like that could be a lot of fun, just to teach the values of dollars and quality and service and the things you and I live by.
Yeah, I love that, the quality and service. So because that's what you're an expert for, getting right down to the core of. But why don't we talk about, I don't know, why don't we go into that moment? When was your first either lemonade stand or the lemonade stand that you felt that was funky and it needed some adjusting? Because, I think that's a good way to start. Lemonade stands when John and I started was as big as the corner. Lemonade stands today are as big as how many people can, your smartphone can hit. All right. So why don't we start off with that, John? When was when did you, I don't even want to assume, but did your first lemonade stand or first business or first venture work out well?
No, my first venture, I had a partner who I shouldn't have signed with. I trusted him on paperwork, and I got ripped off for the only $600,000 I had in my name. So my first one was not good. And I learned a lesson at that time about integrity and trustworthiness and who to get in bed with, so to speak. And, of course, I never had that again. But I attained success. And, when you asked me this question, Daymond, I thought it was, an incredible concept to talk about this moment that changes all of our lives. And I thought about several that I had in life. For example, when I was younger and I owned my first nightclub, and it was a big nightclub with technology and dance floors, and I stood in there by myself at 4 in the morning. And the fact that I could own
Where was this club? Where was this club and how old were you?
It was in Chicago, and I was about, I guess, 28 maybe, something like that. Okay. But to look over my domain, if you will, and what I had, that was a pretty good moment for me. But when I thought about, what moment was the most powerful that I wanted to give to you, here's the story. I'm at Caesar's Palace many years ago, about 13, 14 years ago, and I'm giving a speech. And at the end of the speech, can I use frank language or should I filter this to clean?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Absolutely.
I'm giving a speech, and at the end of the speech, somebody comes up to me and says, John, you should be on television. So I go home and I write something up called On the Rocks, 3 pages. And Daymond, it's half Mission Impossible and half Kitchen Nightmares. So I'm going to be dropped in a restaurant with files, and I'm going to have the file of my mixologist and my chef, just like the beginning of Mission Impossible. I put it together, and years earlier, I had been a consultant to Paramount for Bubba Gump Shrimp Company and some of their hospitality stuff. So I had made a decent living at that point, Daymond, but I wasn't wealthy by all means yet. So because of my contacts at Paramount, I could set up a meeting to pitch my idea to them, set a head of TV and a bunch of Paramount people in the room. And I walk in and I sit down and I tell them my idea. And they look at me and say, John, you will never fucking be on television. You're too old. You're not good looking enough. It'll never happen. So I walk out of the meeting. I get in my car. They gave me a drive on.
But they say that to you
in exactly that way. Precisely word for word.
Who What company was this again?
This was in Paramount on a Paramount lot. And it's funny because what network am I on today? Paramount. So it's funny, David.
What happened though? Like, because I gotta tell you something about Hollywood. My experience with Hollywood is nobody tells you no to your face. They tell you it's not the time of this right because you know what? They don't want to be the person that told Jon Taffer no
Well, they
10
were.
years later.
They were.
And I,
But
I don't know
remember
if I
me.
have respect for the person who told you or I feel sorry for the person who told you, but go ahead.
So I had not been in TV. So they had given me this meeting. And my question to you, gentlemen, I want to share an idea with you to see if it's even worth my time. And that's when they said to me, "You'll never be. You're too old, not good." So I drive in through the Paramount gates on the way out, Damon. As you can imagine, I'm
Hmm.
bummed, right? And
Hmm.
I think to myself, you know what? I'm going to make my own sizzle reel. So in
Hmm.
the television business, you sell shows based on these 3 to 4 minute sizzle reels.
Right. Hmm.
So I go to a friend's bar in Hermosa Beach. It's empty on a Saturday afternoon. It's full on Sunday for football. I film it empty, do my shtick, my stuff, film it full, create a 4 minute sizzle reel, edit it myself, send it to 4 production companies, and get 4 out of 4 offers because I was angry that they had looked at me and said, "No, you'll never be on television." It almost energized me. You know what I mean? It gave me the fight to go after this. And I got 4 out of 4 offers, buddy.
But who gave? But who? But let me. And congratulations on that. First of all, that is showing how your ability to bob and weave. But why? First of all, they don't see you on TV, and who cares what other people think. But what gave you the guts or the vision or the confidence to feel like you should be on TV anyway? Because maybe you could have went in there and said, "Well, I'm Jon Taffer. I'm established in the business, and I got some really sexy young people that I want to produce a show because I'm connected." What made you? Because you were never on TV before that, right?
Never. Nor had I ever been in the television business before.
Why did you feel you can do that? And let me ask some, were you married at the time? Or
I was.
okay, were you still married to the
I
same
am.
person?
Yep, 25 years.
And what did she say to you when you said you were gonna go do this and pitch this?
She was actually pretty supportive. She's I'm proud to say probably my biggest fan, Damon. So her support meant a lot to me at the time. But that no, I think gave me a greater level of energy than a yes would have given me. And the person who did that to me, you're going to get a kick out of this. Years ago, there was a company that sold black roses, and they
Mhm.
sold them in coffin-shaped boxes to send to people. So I bought a box of 12 black roses in a coffin box, and I shipped it to him when the show was picked up.
Nice. Nice. And now we know who you are today, but let me I wanna go back to when you were that nightclub owner.
Yeah.
Um, it was your first nightclub, you're 28 years old, you're in Chicago, correct?
Yep.
You just opened the doors. How much did you put into that club?
About a $500,000. Blood
Half
money.
a million.
Blood
Did you have
money back then.
partners?
I did. I
What
had
do you
one
mean blood money?
partner.
You borrowed it?
Oh, no. I borrowed about 100 of it, but it was money. It's all I had.
That's all you had.
Yeah.
Did you have partners?
Had one partner.
Was that the one who took you for 600?
Nope, that was the next. The second one was a good one. The first one took me for 600, and I had no recourse because I didn't have the right paperwork. I went at it as a total rookie on a handshake name, and something I would never do again. And of course, you would never advise.
Okay, so you're at the second one. This is now you're on your own. But you have a level of confidence because of your first um whatever maybe you first experienced in the first club, correct?
Yeah, and I must say, even when I was young, always had a good level of confidence. I think I was good when I was young at presenting myself with a little BS. And I think as I got older and older, the BS got less and less, and I actually became what I said. But I think in the younger years, I had the confidence to pitch myself into situations that some would say I wasn't qualified for, but I pulled them off in the end.
But unlike you wanting to be somebody who brings your message to the masses on television and helps probably empower so many more people because when family, a couple, partners are going through some shit and they look at you and you just basically pulverize somebody for doing the wrong thing, even though you told them where you saw
Yeah.
value. These people now can say, "You see, look, I'm not the only one who thinks like that," right? But when you were trying to get on TV, it wasn't proven, but now if you gotten, from my Shark Tank experience of sniffing through, if somebody stole 600,000 from you, that means there was 600,000 to be stolen.
That's right.
Now you're at version number two. You're on your own. You borrowed 100, but you probably have some data and numbers of what you've done before that
Hmm.
makes people say, "I will give you 100 of mine."
Hmm.
How are you feeling at that moment? Do you remember, were you married? Do you have kids? Were you nervous? Was anybody special in your life? What happened, and what was the pressure of opening that second? Were you naive, like, "Oh my God, I got the second one, no problem," or were you like, "Holy crap, I'm actually on my own. I don't have somebody as experienced or better or more experienced than me"? What were you going through at that moment in your life?
Well, it wasn't the holy crap thing. I wasn't freaking out in that
Okay.
kind of a way. I was pretty, but I for years had been a hospitality professional. So I had been a bar manager. I had been a hotel general manager. I had been a resort food and beverage director. So I had run multi-million-dollar food and beverage businesses. And I knew I was good at it because I had been promoted and I'd received raises and I've gotten a few awards and stuff. So when I opened it, I had the confidence in my ability to run it. But it's a new location, as you know, Damon. The greatest idea can fail in the wrong place or with the wrong
Yeah.
people around you. So, of course, you always have those fears. But I'm not the type to have doubted myself. Now, I didn't have my daughter till I was 35 years old, so I was still single. And when I
Mhm.
was in a hospitality business, before I opened my own company, which is 1986, I was VP of a hotel company. And they had
Mhm.
moved me 11 times in 5 years to bigger and bigger and bigger hotels because I was
Mm.
really good at driving revenue. And I knew
Right.
that. So I had a bit of a history in it. And then when I started my own company in 1986, my first client was the hotel company that I had worked for. So I sort of
Mhm.
had a bit of a cushion when I started my own business that way.
Right. And so so you were still single, right?
Yep, I was.
Mark Cuban will say often, and even I'll say the very similar thing. When he was building his, working on his stuff, a girlfriend said to him, "You work too hard. It's either me or the business." And he said, "I'm sorry. What was your name again?" Um, where where were you with relationships at that time?
My life,
Because this, yeah.
yeah, I was selfishly absorbed in my own professional career at that stage in my life. And I had
Because you're 28.
girlfriends that had
Mhm.
come and gone, but I would relocate. And if she didn't want to come with me, she didn't come with me, but I still took that opportunity. And I got married late and I put my career first. And I realized back then, being in a hospitality business, Damon, that I couldn't always create my own opportunities in the cities that I lived in. I had to be willing to go to that bigger, better market to get that bigger, better property. So, yeah, I think that at a young age, you should be selfish about your career and stay focused. And I think paying the dues with that kind of focus is what sets you up to take care of that family a little later on.
It
Do you
is, it
agree?
is. So
Do you agree?
100%. I tell people, even my daughter, as much as I love them, I'm a girl dad. I say, up until 20, you're somebody's daughter. And then you're going to be somebody's wife and mother and grandmother. And I said, 10 years, do you. And I don't care what you is. Bill Wells in Africa, party like a rock star, go look at art, save sea turtles. I don't care,
That's great
but
advice.
know who you are. Um,
See, I did
but
that. I didn't have
yeah.
that advice from my parents, but I did that,
But you did it.
and it
But
made
there's a
me.
lot of temptation at 28 years old. There's a lot of distraction to live in a world of a nightlife and own a club. Did you have those? Because first of all, you're going to sleep at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Probably there is a lot of liquor. There's a lot of various other
Sex, drugs, rock and
variables,
roll.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Were you living that life? Were you nose down? Where was that? Where were you at that time? Because I got to tell you, at 30 years old, when I had a couple $1 million in the bank, I was really, really focused. But yeah, I made some mistakes too. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I made some mistakes with my diet. I was like, I can eat everything. I'll have it all. Right. And A-type personalities like you, myself, and many listening, we don't know how to do it halfway. Were there
Right.
any temptations then? Or did you
Yeah.
take advantage of those temptations?
Yeah, there were. Was particularly when I ran a Troubadour in Hollywood, which I think you know is a very famous nightclub
Oh yeah.
venue. And in those days,
You ran the Troubadour, you said?
I ran a Troubadour back in the late '70s, early '80s.
Wow, with all the famous rock bands coming in
Oh,
there.
yeah. Now, when I ran a Troubadour, bands like Fear and Black Flag and
Yeah,
Adam
yeah.
Ant and all those punk
Oh my
bands.
God.
So there's a lot of temptation around you in those days, as you can imagine, Damon.
Of
Women like
course.
crazy,
Yeah.
white powder all over the darn
Oh yeah.
place,
Yeah. We're not
alcohol.
talking about Johnson and Johnson either. Yeah.
But, I
Baby
think
powder.
you and I have something in common. I would look at that room of all these people that were high and drunk and partying, and I would say to myself, somebody here needs to be sober.
Mm.
Somebody here needs to take responsibility. God forbid should something happen to someone. And as the bar owner and the operator, I always looked at that responsibility in that way. So I was never the drunk guy in a room. I always
Mm-hmm.
tended to be the sober guy. Now, if you and I went out on a night off, that's a different deal, buddy. I could have a good
Mm.
time with you.
Right, right,
But
right.
in that environment, I did not succumb. I must tell you, I avoided my employees from a relationship standpoint. I really
Mm-hmm.
didn't drink, and I didn't fall into the drug thing on a job. So I think I was fortunate that I had the discipline to do that. And that was an interesting era back then, because that was pre-AIDS, pre-gangs, pre-violence.
You're
So,
talking. You must be talking about 82 or something
yeah,
like that.
79 to 82, exactly right.
79 to 82. You're talking about, disco was starting to slow down, right? Hip hop starting to come up. Punk bands like Blondie and all
Yep.
these other bands are now starting to hit the country.
My
It
Sharona.
was a My Sharona. It was a very, very special time. There was a lot of hairspray. A lot of
Of hairspray.
hairspray
That
at
was a
that
fun time. I remember girls in those days wore cellophane pants. You could see through them, the Valley girls in the alley. Those were fun times.
Those were fun times. The women's lib had already really taken effect,
Yep.
and women felt that, we can do what the men do. And
Yeah.
they were very, very just, overt with a lot of things. And, it's fine. But
Society wasn't defensive like it is today, Damon.
it wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't. So you would manage to have that discipline. But I got to ask you another question, because I don't like going into restaurant businesses for various things. I think technology now has saved some of
Mhm.
my concerns. But when I worked at certain restaurants, the staff would steal everything. If it wasn't nailed down, they were going to steal it. Now, in my business, and a lot of people should understand, there is going to be what we call leakage, whatever you
Mhm.
want to call leakage, right? Somebody
We
stealing it from
use
the
the same term.
warehouse, whatever. Okay. Besides this person who, clearly took advantage of a handshake agreement, but when was the first time you caught somebody that you trust or you believed you trust stealing from you in your business?
Yeah, there were two biggies. One was somebody who I was putting in business. I was investing in them. I had put not that much, about $150,000 into their business, and they completely ripped me off, and it broke my heart. It was a very, very personal.
Why did they rip you off? Did they have a problem? Because a lot of times when people rip you off, they could be habitual kleptos. They could be con men and women. They could fall into a divorce or drugs, or they can say, John got it. Fuck that. Fuck John got, he's gonna be okay. You know what? I don't care all that I helped you, because a lot of times when you help people so much, they either are like, man, really, I thank you, or they can't. It's overwhelming to them where they want to say, fuck you.
I think that
You
was
got
it
it
to some
anyway.
degree. Damon, I think that what I did is I was putting him in a position of ownership and a mature, and I think he resented the fact that I was putting him in this position of responsibility. And he said just what you said: "Fuck him. He's already got his money. I don't want to do this." And he just sort of abandoned it.
What did you do? How did you respond to that? Did you? I know it hurt, but that could have made you a cold person from that point on and never given anybody else a chance. What did you do? Because you're still in a business that is very volatile when it
I
comes
am.
to, yeah.
But today a lot of systems and a lot of automated systems and such do it. For example, my Taffer's Tavern has
Hmm.
60% of the labor costs of a regular restaurant in the kitchen. Everything is packaged and counted and numbered, and
Hmm.
the controls can be in place to do it now. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was running the Troubadour, I had an assistant manager who I liked, and he looked like high, like sort of dizzy, if you will. And he
Hmm.
came out of the walk-in refrigerator. So I walked into the walk-in refrigerator. You're gonna laugh. And on the floor in the walk-in refrigerator were two cases of ready
Whipped
whipped
cream,
cream.
whipped
Yep.
cream, whip hits.
And
Uh huh.
24 cans in each case, and not
Uh huh.
one of them had any
Not
gas in
one of them
it.
worked. He was blowing his brains out.
That's right.
W- how do you like? I don't understand because you have going to the fact that you have discipline there, but you're dealing with bartenders and various other people. I mean, you got heavy turnover
Yeah.
normally. What would you say to people now when they catch people stealing in that sense?
When I'm of the belief that if honesty is sacrificed, there's no basis of any relationship ever with someone who lies or steals. That ends everything to me. There's no second chance, no form of discussion. If an employee lies to me about doesn't have to be financially related. Those things, are
Hmm.
deal changers for me. I believe that any relationship, professional or otherwise, has to be based in trust. So I really try to be honest with the people around me. If things are good, I say it. If they're not good, I say it. I know my producer's sitting here with me. I know he would shake his head that he always knows where he stands, and so uh, theft is unbelievable to me. And in bar rescue, I see it hugely, Damon. I go to these
Hmm.
bars, and these employees tell me in an interview, "Oh no, the owner's like a father to me. I love him. Oh boy,
Hmm.
and then I get into the business, and they're robbing the guy blind, and
Right.
they do love him. They do care about him, but they're
Yeah.
still robbing him blind. And what gets me, Damon, is they're not stealing from bosses they hate. They're stealing from bosses they love. That's mind
Where,
boggling to me.
but this is what I mean. Like I know that the funny thing about that moment is we go down these rabbit holes, and I want to know. We see the resentment side, and this is a great point you're bringing up. Like we already talked about somebody who stole from you, who said, "F John,"
Yep.
he got it. Why are people robbing from people they love? Why do you listen? You're not God. You don't have a crystal ball and see the future. But I'm curious. What have you seen a defining thing that shows that people why people steal from those they love?
I think that there is a loosening of society, if you will, Damon. I think we see it in a lot of different ways today. I think the behavior envelope of children is a little bigger than it used to be. I think you and I had a narrower envelope that we had to perfect when we were younger than a child does today. I think that people today have a global view, or they think they have a global view at a much younger age. I think today this is a world of forgiveness. Look at my grandson's 4 years old. He went to Little League this week. And it's
Mhm.
not Little League at all. It's a T-ball. If he
Mm.
doesn't hit it, they applaud him. If he hits it, they applaud him. If he catches the ball, they applaud him. If he doesn't catch the ball, they don't applaud him. There's no latitude to win and lose. So how does my little grandson, get the feeling of victory and loss that you and I had when we were young?
Yeah.
That became so. I think this desire to not challenge people directly and to just say that's okay, little Johnny. That's okay, little Johnny. Sometimes it's not okay, little Johnny. Do you agree?
I 100% agree, and I'm just trying to think about the moment. I found a lot of people that are stolen from me, and I think we're getting to something as I discover this is that you have to confront people no matter who they are and how they are, no matter because you're in a business, you're all about the numbers.
Yep.
When somebody told me one day, somebody said, Damon, you're losing about a $500,000. Oh my God, people are stealing from me. They said, but they're not even trying to steal from you. You know what it was? The small things is what they were doing, like we had clothing, so they would just, wear something home, a sample because they're cold. But
Yep.
everybody wore a sample home for the cold. We unlocked the box where all the stuff goes in for the printers and all the paper and stuff like that. Well, hey, my kid's doing a report. I'm going to take home a stack of paper.
Right.
Right
Right.
before Uber was out, hey, we get a car service and I got to go to dinner. So they get the car service at 5. They keep the car service all the way till 2 o'clock in the morning. The car service is just sitting there while they're at
Yep.
dinner. And that car just costs $1,000.
Yep.
Right. There is intentional theft, and then there's the kind of like, "Oh, that's my guy, but, a couple of dollars I'm not gonna charge you for this drink, that drink, this drink, that drink, this drink, that drink," and before you know it, it mounts up. So, how do you differentiate those that are intentional and those that are doing things by mistake? Because even though they're doing it by mistake, they're not considering it. What do you do in that sense?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I always say they find a way to justify it to themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been on the road for 4 days. I deserve this. Or boy, I really came through for Damon. I got him that, blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
So they find some way to justify it. I'm the bartender.
Uh.
If it wasn't for me, Taffer wouldn't have made a dime tonight. So
Right.
so I think that's a lot of it because they don't think of themselves as thieves, and that's where it gets scary. If they don't think of themselves as a thief because they're justifying it to themselves, then they're logically not going to have any guilt, and they're
Right.
logically going to do it again. So it's the one who knows that he's stealing when he does it. You know, in the bar business, I'll tell you a funny story. In the bar business, the way they steal more than any other way, Damon, is they ring up no sale. So
Ah,
let's say I sell you $20 worth of drinks. I go up to you, I say $20. I go to the register, I ring up no sale. You
mm,
don't see that from your seat. I put the
right.
20 in the drawer. The drawer now owes me 20. I take
Mm.
2 pennies, $10 each in representation, move them over to a little pile. Now I go, the drawer owes me 20. I do
Ah,
that 4 more times. Now the drawer owes me $100, right?
right.
Oh, I'm out of singles. So I count out 5 20s from my tip cup, go up to the
Mm.
drawer, pull $200 out, and drop it in the tip cup, and now I'm even again. So the
John, you
w-
think like a thief. How do you think? Why would
so
you think like a thief?
so when they do this stuff, you can see the piles of pennies and matches behind the bar because they're counting.
Ah.
And I'll mess that up. I'll move their stuff around when I'm back there. So now they lose freaking count. So now when I close them out at the end of the night, they're over or under $100, $150,
Ah.
and I got them, buddy. But you know, it's the employee who knows he's stealing is one thing, but the employee who justifies it to himself is even scarier because that's the one who tells the employee next to him, you should do it too.
I love how you just broke down because a lot of people don't think that the bosses know the game.
Oh,
It's
you and
funny,
I know the game, man. We've
I
been
I
there.
I live in Miami, and I don't carry cash, and the IRS. I'm the IRS's most watched person in the world. I'm an African American giving away money on TV. All right,
Yep,
I pay more. I pay enough taxes for you, me, and everybody else. Not my share. I pay everybody's share on
yep,
purpose.
I hear you.
I pull up in Miami. It always happens. Hey, you want to park in the front? If it's one of my really nice cars, and I don't have many of the really
Yep.
nice ones, I don't want to get a ding. Sure, park in the front. All right, $100 cash. No, I don't pay cash. I pay credit card. No, 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 puppy. We don't take credit cards. All right, guys. Let me break this to you. I'm an African American driving a Rolls Royce. I'm the biggest thief around here. I know how to hustle, my brothers. Now, it is not about being a thief because I'm not. It's just I've been around so much. I go, stop lying to me. You have a square somewhere over here. Stop lying to me. Then all of a sudden, magically, oh, Papa, look, we found it. It's working. Now, why do employees not know that we know the hustle?
Yeah, it's remarkable. But I think the trick to it I have found in my business is they need to know that I know. Because that's where the fear comes and that's where the regulatory impact comes. If they know I know, like I move those pennies, I say something to them, I catch them in an act, etc. When they know I know, that's when it tends to stop. The
Do
problem
you
is,
find that they quit though?
n-
Because when you find habitual thieves or liars or people who fluff, and I don't want this is definitely not a negative interview because this is us talking because a lot of business owners are listening to us and
Mhm,
will listen to us and be more empowered to save more money to employ more people.
mhm.
But when you find that people, you just cut their work or their revenue because when people start to make more they count on it more, and if potentially if they are somebody who is a thief, they probably have a lot of other bad habits. Do you find that when you now box them into a corner for any reason, whether taking credit of another person's work, that's stealing too, do you find that they quit?
It depends upon if they believe they're stealing or not.
Hmm.
If they believe they're stealing, then it's lost income to them. If they're one of those people who justify it to themselves, I can get them to stay with the absence of it. That's a really key question, though, because if they leave in that case, then don't you want them to leave anyway? They're thieves.
I do, but
So
what if
I
they?
got a
What if?
story for you. I got a
Yeah,
story for you. I take a job as a bartender in 1978 at Barney's Beanery on Santa Monica Boulevard in Los Angeles. I'm sure a famous place. I'm sure you
yeah.
know it. My first night there, the bartender, I think he's dead, so I can say his name, Kenny Bornstein, comes up to me and says, "We steal here. You have
Mm,
to take at least 100 a night." This is in 1978. $100 was a decent amount of money back
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah. That's $400 now.
So I said, "How do you do it?" So he showed me how to do it. And he said, "Listen to me. If I steal and you don't, the registers are out of whack. You must steal
Mm,
100 a night. Everybody steals 100 a night." That was my first night working in
wow.
that operation. So it's a cancer. And when you catch somebody who does it, even if you sense they might be doing it, you have to kill the cancer. And I use something called a landmark fire. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before. To me,
No.
a landmark fire would be taking the biggest offender, whether it's be the lowest performing employee, the most thieving employee, the employee with the worst attitude, and fire them. And it's a landmark fire, and it wakes up everybody else around them. And, firing somebody for theft or suspected theft can go a long way with the people around them.
I agree. Setting an example, period, can go a long way. And I wanted to ask one last question about that area, and I want to then move on to something else, because I love all these moments, because that was a very special moment that you learned that there's a lot of cahoots, coercion, and cutting a cancer stops it, right? Because it can bring a company down as well as it can bring it up if somebody is coming in with the, I want to solve this.
Mhm.
We're going to do this shit together, right? That is infectious, and you need more of those people. What about in a relationship where you kind of box the person in, whether they have been doing you wrong or not on the same page as you? Do you think that initially, whether it's a partnership or whatever the case is, romantic relationship, do they check out too once you catch them in all these things and say no more of this, and you
Yeah,
you you kind of box them into a corner?
yeah. Once I box them in, I've sort of made my choice that I want them to go at that point. So I'm the kind of person who, once I get to that position, a state of mind, if you will, I don't give people a second chance when it comes to honesty and things like that. So I'm pretty
Got it.
direct in that way.
All right. Well, now let's go. I think that's a perfect segue. State of mind. 8 seasons. Excuse me. I watch you. You are in a lot of Middle America. You're in a lot of cities now. Every city is beautiful. Every city is great if you live there. You,
Hmm.
you have your community, you have a comfortability, you have your home, your church, whatever the case is. But you are in a lot of cities and you do not live there. You have a state of mind to do this. It is not easy. What was the moment? Because I'm sure after the show became a success of what it is, did you say to yourself, do I want to go into these cities all the time now? I be careful what you ask for. You had to face sometimes, and maybe you love it. I don't know. Do you like going into all these different cities and dealing with all those elements, being on the road and going in and having these stressful arguments in bars and various other things where half the people hate you, and even the ones that you want to help change, they hate you a little bit too for the honest truth? How do you feel about that? And why do you continue to do this where we all benefit? But why?
I've never been asked this question in that way, and I got a great answer for you.
Yeah.
At the end of every episode, you see I get a hug.
Yep.
What people don't know is we're wearing microphones on our chests. So when I get that hug, the audience cannot hear what is said to me during that hug.
Hmm.
But the things that owner says to me, Daymond, are unbelievable. John, you saved my marriage. You saved my freaking life, John.
Mm.
I'm talking to my son again. Thank you. I feel a weight lifting off my shoulders. John, you saved my life. The things they whisper into my ear, Daymond, are so powerful, so
Uh,
moving, so inspirational to me
right.
that next week I fight even harder. I
Mm.
scream even more. I push even more. And I find, surprisingly, the ones that fight with me the most are the ones that give me the tightest hug. Isn't that
Really?
interesting? Because I think people in their lives have never been able to crack through to them before. A lot of them are a little thick-headed, if you will, a
Yeah.
little opinionated. And their wives weren't able to crack through, their partners weren't able to crack through, their kids weren't able to crack through. Suddenly I crack through, and they're really appreciative of it in the end. As ugly as it got, in the end, they're really appreciative. But I wonder if you had the same revelation when you went on television. You see, I never thought that this depth of failure even existed.
Mhm.
I never realized people could be in that bad a position. 50 years old, living in your parents' basement. You blew $400,000 of their retirement. They have no retirement left.
Yeah.
You're losing in a $30,000 a month. You got enough money for 2 more weeks. I, I never. So when I started this, I had no comprehension, Daymond, that level of failure existed. And I look at your face on Shark Tank. Some of these pitches are shocking to you as well. I could see, but it was always shocking to me, that depth of failure, if you will.
But, you get to you see, you go deep into the fire. My understanding of these depth of failures happen over a year, 2 years, 5 years because, I got this great pitch, we do the deal, whatever the case is, and I'm not deep in there. You get to roll up your sleeve and you get to see how that action is being and how that business is being ran right there in real time, and you can easily go in there and go, "Okay, okay, it's all nice what you said. Let me see what's going on here," and you get to condense that time as you go in there yelling or screaming, and of course you go in there often with love. You go in there with love first. You kind of go in there and break down and look at
Hoping
the
for
whole
love.
environment. Yeah, always, right?
Yep.
How do you turn that off at home? Because my first marriage, I was very young. I wasn't very young. I was as you were 28, 29, and I noticed that as couples, young couples or even older couples now, we get together, and you were smart enough to have a child at 35. I noticed that, we got my wife and I, we got together because we loved each other, but now we have children. I'm coming home, I'm running a multi-million-dollar business, and all we're talking about is what kid is sick, what kid has to go here, and the house became the business, and I started to talk to my wife. I could never cut it off. I started to talk to my wife like an employee. It didn't work out well for me. I slept on the couch a lot, and then I ended up getting
Mhm.
divorced. How how were you able to turn that off when you go home?
It's funny. My first wife worked in my first wife. See, you know where I'm going already.
Mhm, oh, yeah. There
Worked
we
in
go.
my business with me. And same kind of thing. She became a business partner. And business frustrations got in the middle of us. All we talked about was work and business. We were the opposite. We never talked about children. All we talked about was work and business.
No, but when we
It
talk about
destroyed the marriage.
children, it was still a business. "Alright, get her
Yeah.
there at 3:04. How much?" Did that destroy the business as well? I mean, destroy the marriage?
I think it did. I think it did. I've been married to Nicole for 25 years now. You've met Nicole. And
Yeah.
she is out of the business, and she carries a card. She's our special projects manager, so she can come in and do stuff and do fun things that she likes to contribute, but the business never gets between us anymore, and that's really, really important because the frustrations of business, Damon, guys like you and I live with these frustrations.
Yeah.
The challenge for us is not to bring them home somehow. Not to bring them home. And I work really hard at that. I'm not as good as it as I'd like to be, but I think I'm better at it today than I was 10 years ago.
We are, we grow, and I would love for because it was that moment. I gotta tell you that moment with my wife Heather, who I've been with now 18 years. She was young, she was 22, 23, but she had this brilliant aspect of understanding men like us, or me, because I was mainly one of the first men she was ever with. But around 26, 27, and she started to see how my office operated and my life was. Many women would say, "Well, how is it working out?" You know what she said? She said, when he comes home, I don't talk to him for the first hour or half an hour. If he wants to talk to me, he talks to me. I'm not going to hit him with problems as soon as he walks in the door. Because I see when he wakes up, he has 100 emails and 100 texts, and emails and texts is never anything good for you. It's always somebody else's goddamn problem. And when he comes home, I want to leave that up to him. And then it was that moment when I heard her giving another person advice. She never even told me that she did that. It was that moment I said, well, how can I repay her for what she's doing for me? And and, and I think that it's that sensibility of understanding the other person's position. And give me a tip. Do you have any tips to how you guys make it work?
I can't believe you said that. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about myself. And, Nicole with me handles everything in our personal lives,
Hmm.
manages the household. If I'm traveling, my bags are packed for me. When I come home, they're unpacked for me. My insurance, my cars, my vehicles. She'll call the hotels, make sure the room I have is everything that I need it to be. And she
Nice.
is focused on me all the time. And I realized that she is as much of a reason for my own success as I am. If it wasn't for, and she's my muse in a way, if she
Hmm.
wasn't behind me to the level that I am, or your wife is to you,
Hmm.
I'm not sure you and I could stand in the ways that we do, have the freedom of mind, if you will, to attack the things that we attack and accomplish every day. So these past few
I'd be
years, I've
dead.
gotten
I would
much.
literally be dead if I didn't have that, because the same way she does that for you, she
Me too.
probably makes sure you go into the doctor. I wouldn't have known I had thyroid cancer unless she said, "Get your ass to the doctor."
Bingo, same exact thing with me. So you and I recognize the power that they have to our success, and I think we treat them accordingly. So I look at my wife as not the partner that I don't need. I look at her as the partner that I do need. You know, we all have partners that contribute, and we all have partners that don't contribute. The ones that contribute, we treat very differently than the ones who don't contribute. These are contributing our partners, our biggest contributing partners. So I've
Absolutely.
gotten really good these past few years of really appreciating that. And by the way, saying to her very often, I appreciate you and I appreciate these things that you do. And that goes a long way in and of itself.
I do as well. But I gotta tell you, let me see. Who did I realized how to say that I appreciate. Oh, it was Howard Stern one day was talking to. He was talking to who's the guy who needed to be loved by somebody else. The panties were thrown on the stage, or who's that guy?
Uh,
Um, the big singer. Was he?
not
Uh,
Tom Jones, not.
Tom Jones.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
Howard Stern, his first wife. We were talking
Yep.
about first wife and second wife. Actually, there's a guy on the radio whose name is Big Lou, and he goes he's a divorce attorney, and he likes to say, "I'm Big Lou, and Big Lou's just like you, except for I'm not on wife number 3, I'm on wife number 2." But you know how Howard was talking to Tom Jones. He said, "Tom, women throw their undergarments on the stage at you. You have a wife. Your wife is happy with you and you're happy with her. I mean, any woman could be intimidated. Any man could be intimidated by other people going to that level of adornment for your significant other." He says, "How do you deal with that?" And Tom Jones said, "Howard, what do you say to your he said, "What do you say to your wife when you leave in the morning?" Howard said, "Goodbye, you old raggedy ass, something, something," and slams his door, right? That's the problem, Tom. That's the problem, Howard. He said, "I say to my wife every time before I leave in the morning, I'm going to miss you. And let me tell you something. You have been on my mind all morning and you will be on all night. I can't wait till I come home."
Wow.
And I think that if you just take a second, right, to tell somebody that thing that, we take so much for granted. Now, think about how much we say that to our little kids, our daughters, your grandchildren. I love you. You did the most amazing thing today. Or, you know what? It's better to not say you did the most amazing thing. It's better to say you worked so hard at
Yep.
what you did. And I'm very proud of you. We need to take that time with our significant other. All right. Let me get to one or two
By the
other
way, I think the
points. Yeah,
same is true with employees
it
and with
is.
partners. A little
Very
personal
true.
recognition. How are you, Howard? How's your wife doing? How are the kids doing? Good to see you today. I found that there was the
Mm.
book, The 1 Minute Manager, years ago. It's a very
Yes.
powerful book to me. And it
Absolutely.
taught us attack what people do, don't attack them.
Yes.
So if you were working for me, I'd say, Damon, I love you working for me, buddy. I'm really proud that you work for my organization, but could you do something for me? So I build you up and challenge what you did. And,
Yes.
I think that's an important, I know we're talking about wives and I wouldn't approach your wife
No,
quite that way,
absolutely.
but recognition like that is critical for the people that work for us as well.
I was about to say, do I have my 1 minute manager around here? I read it every single year because I keep getting, I have to get better and better with communication all the time. And what do I have here? I have The Magic Ladder to Success by Napoleon Hill. I
Mm,
like that one, but
that's a
um,
good one too.
it
Also, have
is
you read E-Myth Revisited by
no.
Michael Gerber? So E-Myth Revisited
Michael
focuses on
Gerber was the founder of the wait, there's a movie company, right? Michael Gerber
no,
is
no
huge.
different. He's a writer, E-Myth Revisited. He talks about the premise of working in the business and working on the business.
Yeah.
And that everybody is either a manager, an administrator, or a creative. And just fascinating book. I think you'd enjoy it.
No,
Called E-Myth Revisited.
I absolutely will, and I got to do the audio because I'm dyslexic. So when I worked in restaurants at Red Lobster, we all know there's a loop tape of music all the time. Before you
Yep.
know it, at first I hated it. Second, before I know, when I left the company or left places, those were songs were on the top of my playlist. When you were coming up, were there any specific songs that meant success to you, or that you played, or that, or even till today? Some people have My Way by Frank Sinatra. I have Rising to the Top by Kenny Burke, or Bill Conte, Going the Distance, the Rocky song. Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun,
the
dun,
Rocky one
dun, dun,
gets
dun,
me.
dun.
Yeah.
Did you have any songs that were
A
always that
bunch.
thing?
But I actually have the only patent ever issued by the federal government for the management of music to achieve a desired ambiance in a hospitality property. I am a music freaking nutcase. The music in my restaurants are curated by beats per minute, keys, vocalists, and instrumentation combinations into beats per minute energy curves and content curves. And I can control how quick you chew through my music program.
How can you do
I can
that?
manipulate how quick your table turns through my music program. So
How can you do that? Because the tables are not all being sat at the same time unless you have an 8
no,
o'clock
but it's
seating.
still a 45-minute turn or a 50-minute turn. So music programs tend to go in a 45-minute cycle.
45, and why this 45 minutes? Is there any
Not the
particular
same
reason?
song every 45
No,
minutes.
I
The
understand, but
same
why?
beats per minute curve. The same
Ah,
structural elements repeat themselves.
understood.
So I'm moving you through a bit of an energy curve, if you will, Damon. And your body reacts to those energy curves, the speed that you walk, the speed that you chew, all those kinds of things.
So are
And then
you
through
saying that if I come in your restaurant and I'm feeling really sexy because you got Sade playing, it's 8 o'clock, the wine is flowing, but now all of a sudden, you want to get the doors closed and you turn up. I'm eating the dessert to Luke. Don't stop, get it, get it. Like, how do you? What are you
that's
doing?
what I'm doing. Then I'm playing with lighting levels because the dimmer the lights, the closer you get to the person you're talking to. The brighter
Ah,
the lights, the farther you get. So when you look at music content, music volume level, lighting levels, then the real science becomes the interactivity of eye contact. For example, in a bar at 0 level, everybody's in bar stools at high seating. At an elevated level, everybody's at low seating. So when you walk through the room, everybody's eyes are within 10 inches of each other. At a low seat at an elevated area, high seat at a 0 area. So I keep everybody's eye height the same. It maximizes interaction and connectivity.
hold on, I'm gonna get this. Hold
So now I put the right music program, the right writing levels, the right
on.
dynamics of those elements, and I'm controlling your
So
experience.
I'm walking in. The bar stools are up here because I'm like, I see you, homie. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see
Yep.
me. And
Because
then
the
I
bar
move.
stool sitting and you standing is almost the same eye height, isn't it?
Mm.
Now you turn your head to the elevated area, and the people sitting are also at the same eye height.
Oh, I got it now. So, well, there's another theory, right? And you tell me, and I'm sure you can dig into this. So, when we were in clubs and we were really going crazy, we
Yep.
noticed a club was like somebody broke it down like a jungle. They said the guys are gonna all stand, at the table, and boom, 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 boom. But the guy or girl with the most money or the most attractiveness start to become like the hawk and the lion, and they get higher on the chair and on the da 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 because they're the apex predator, and the predator is allowing the sheep or gazelles to see them
Yeah.
because they will pick them off accordingly.
It's marketing. Marketing. You want
Were
to be
you doing that
visible
in
when you're
restaurants too? Do
marketing.
you have this platform where maybe the table is a little bit more, or
Absolutely.
that's the
And the lighting
premium?
is a little brighter at that particular
The
table.
lighter is brighter at that table.
So,
I need
but
some
here's the
lighting. I
fun
need.
stuff. Let's say back in your bar days, Damon, let's say you and I were at a bar, we're hanging out together. There's a couple of really beautiful girls up on an elevated area.
Yeah.
So I want to walk by those girls. Ideally, get a little eye contact.
Right.
So we go up the steps to the elevated area. We walk up to the girls. There's a dead end. We can't get off. Now we got to turn around and walk back the other way. We feel like idiots.
Right.
Girls know exactly what we were doing. What if there was a staircase on the other side so I could flow through rather than look like an
Oh.
idiot and hit a dead end? You're more likely to have eye contact with those girls now because I've got a flow pattern around it. So the
Whoa.
science of connectivity and interactivity in the bar is really deep. It's
Wait,
almost a podcast into itself,
no,
buddy, to
it's no.
really.
That is not a. That is your book. Your book is structure in any setting for ultimate interaction or positioning. That is the book that is an architectural what Bible.
And then we do something called the butt funnel. The butt funnel is a 30-inch opening to get onto the dance floor. There's drink rails on either side. So when you approach the butt funnel, you're going to either rub face-to-face with somebody, or you're going to rub ass-to-ass. Your choice. But so, again, all of these are tricks of interactivity. Because you can drink at home, buddy. You can watch TV at home. You can listen to music at home. The one thing I can give you that nobody else can is interaction. That's what the business really is today. We need a Daymond John bar.
Nothing else to say.
We need a Daymond John bar or restaurant.
There's nothing else. There's really this is like all my life. And you know what? I am a very, 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 very proud dad. My daughter just graduated Parsons.
I saw. Congratulations.
With a master's in architectural design, and I am going to have her talk to you.
Please do.
I'm going to put my my lazy boy on a recline on a pedestal in my home with a lot of lights around it. So when my wife, but you know, my wife is gonna look up and go, "Look at that jerk up there. He's really high up in the air." But you know, John, I could talk to you forever, and you know, I can't wait to see the new episode, the new series of Barstool. I know you said that I asked you, I always beg you, what can I promote of yours? But I know it's only in 2 cities. But let's talk about it. Tell me what you got coming out. Where can people find you, follow you? Just tell me it, lay it on the line. I know you didn't want to promote anything, but what do you have? Talk to me.
Buddy, thank you. You know, my Taffer's Taverns are doing great. We have one in Washington, D.C., downtown, one in Alpharetta, Georgia, and one in Watertown in Boston. We're opening in Alabama soon and in Las Vegas soon. So those are going really well. That's my restaurant franchise.
So Taffer's Tavern is open in all those cities, and if people do not know about it, whether you're a customer or somebody who has product and or want to see how to be in business with Mr. Taffer, did you hear what he just said? It's rolling out, and it's not going to stop. Go ahead.
Yep. Next one is my brown butter bourbon. I'm really proud of this one, buddy. This is brown butter bourbon. I'm going to send you a bottle.
Okay. That
I've been working on for 2.5 years. We just introduced it in Boston and Vegas. It goes national soon, and it's doing great, man. I'm blown away by how successful it is.
You shouldn't be, because, you know, you've been doing this all your life, and you don't put your name on anything. So brown butter bourbon, and I'm sure it'll get bigger and better distribution. You accomplished, and you have books. Don't bullshit yourself. Raise the bar. And the power of conflict. All right, man. Well, I'm not bullshitting you, man, because I don't think I could add any value in a book when you talk about the environment, because we're very visual, and now in this world of everything's Instagram, TikTok, I mean, your structures and thinking about these structures, you roll them off your lips so naturally and easily. But I think that this whole thing about when you are someplace, because, you know, people don't need to go to venues, so they can do stuff like you said, drink at home. I think that's the next book, man. I would love to hear that. But you know what? You're a very successful businessman. You don't need my opinion, but I appreciate.
I love your opinion, buddy. I got great respect for you. You're a good friend, Daymond. I love you, my brother.
Well, thank you, brother, so much, and thank you for sharing this moment and sharing with everybody that moment that you've had in your life. And I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for watching. I wish you love and power in your life. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Check you later.